Hello, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to another exciting session where we shall be looking at HTML and CSS. So we looked at a bit of HTML last time, but I want us to at least get to learn some other few elements that we use in HTML. But we won't stop there. We shall go on and we shall introduce some basics in the CSS language, where I'll be showing you how you can actually style out, how you can actually style your elements using CSS. I'll be showing you how we can add colors, how we can change the layout of our program, and so on. So I'm Emmanuel. I'll be your presenter today as well, as usual. I wanted to give it about 2 minutes or 3 minutes to allow other members to join in before we can actually proceed. Okay, I think we can proceed right now. So for today, for today's agenda, we are going to be a bit more practical this time around. I understand that we're able to look at some of the basics of HTML last week, where I introduced some basic tags. I showed our members some of the syntax that we use before starting to lay out our web page. So first on the agenda, we shall have a session 3 recap, a very brief recap of what we were able to cover, so that some of our members don't forget that. Then additionally, I'll give you a brief introduction to CSS. And like I said, this time around, it is going to be a bit more practical than before. Yeah, we are going to be doing actual code, because I really want to explain the concepts when at least some of the learners are actually trying them out. They are sort of learning through try and error, sort of trying to find out how we can actually be able to design our websites. So as usual, we always have a demonstration session that involves writing actual code. And like I said, this is going to take up the most time this time around. Then obviously, as usual, as part of our culture, we always entertain questions and answers. We always provide the answers. So in case you have a burning question, in case you have an inquiry, in case maybe you want to give some advice, it would be nice to share that with us at the end of the session. during the Q&A session. So for our first session, session 3, we looked at a number of things, as well as a couple of code that we saw in the beginning, where although we didn't go in depth, I just simply showed you how we can come up with the HTML web structure. But today, I want us to at least add on something a little bit advanced that we call not really advanced to that extent, but a little bit extra that can help us. Please, members, when you're joining, make sure you mute. Please, when you're joining, make sure you mute. Please, members, when you're joining, make sure you mute your mic so that you don't interrupt the class. Okay, so let's proceed. So in session 3, we actually had looked at a couple of things, and we're able to look at web design as a notion, as a concept. So we defined web design, we looked at web development, we looked at graphics design. So I hope that at least our members at this point, before we go into the web development part, the implementation part, they should be able to differentiate between web design and web development. They should also know where graphics design comes in. Sorry about that. I have to mute someone. Unfortunately, our members aren't following protocol. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, some of our members aren't respecting what I said, and they interrupt our session. So like I was saying, we looked at web design, and we looked at web development, and we also looked at graphics design. So additionally, we were able to look at the difference between a web designer and a web developer, and the definitions of who a web designer is and who a web developer is were actually based on the definitions of web design and web development. So for those who were not able to actually follow us in the third session, please take the time to look at session 3 of the ICT Club weekly sessions, and you'll be able to learn most of these concepts that we discussed last time. So additionally, we looked at the web designing process. So at least by now, we are comfortable, at least to some extent, that our learners were able to at least pick out something from the web design process that I explained briefly in session 3. Additionally, we were able to look at some of the tools that we use in the web design process and some of the applications that I wanted our members to actually check out, to go ahead and download and try out on their computers to see how these work. So this included VS Code, Dreamweaver, and Photoshop. And we said VS Code is simply an IDE that we shall be using in our coding sessions from now, starting now and onwards. Because VS Code is a good IDE, I explained some of its advantages, as well as what it can enable us to achieve at the end of the day. So I also showed you a bit of Dreamweaver, and I told you that Dreamweaver is actually very good for beginners. In case you find that you're getting some difficulties in developing your web page, it would be nice for you to actually try Dreamweaver. Try using Dreamweaver as an IDE, because it sort of also simplifies the programming process, especially in web design, because it shows you a live website as well as your code at the same time. So additionally, I talked about Photoshop that we normally use in graphics design. It helps us to design our photos, our videos that we intend to share in our to sort of embed in our website. And I was able to share with you some screenshots as well. I hope people went and actually downloaded the Photoshop. So obviously we're able to look at some HTML tags like I mentioned. So for today, we shall still be concentrating on HTML and CSS, but mainly we are going to look at what we call semantic and generic HTML. So you're going to understand, what do we mean by semantic HTML? What do we mean by generic HTML? What do they represent in the coding process? What do they stand for at the end of the day? So obviously, when we bring in the CSS, you'll be able to see how we use CSS to style our elements, like I mentioned before. But in this case, we shall be using HTML5 and CSS3. Yes, that's what we shall be using. The other versions of CSS, and you will realize that maybe if you had CSS2 or CSS1, you may not be able to achieve some of the things that you might achieve with CSS3, because I believe CSS3 is the latest version of CSS. Yes, and HTML5 is the latest version of HTML, sorry. So as usual, for some of our members who might have missed this slide, I always consider it a very vital slide of any of our presentations, because it reminds us of what we are supposed to do when we are designing and planning all our programs that we shall be writing on in these sessions every week. So just to run through it quickly, that we always need 7 steps of the process of writing a program, where we begin with an overall goal. We always bring in, we always consider our requirements. What is our system supposed to do? Then we consider some of the limitations that we might face when developing this particular, when developing our programs or our projects. So we design some mock-ups as well, some sketches, we write some pseudocode, and then we search for helpful technology that can help us to handle or to develop our program in an efficient manner. Then additionally, we reach a point where we actually write our program, because that is what programmers do. At the end of the day, you need to write a program that people can actually use. Then at the 6th stage, we always test and troubleshoot. That is a very vital stage. You need to test and troubleshoot at the end of the day. Is your code working? To make sure that at least you know that before you can share it with others, or before you can turn it into an executable file, you have to be sure that at least you can test it to, you have to make sure that it meets the standards at the end of the day. Then of course, finally, you have to finish your program. And by finish, I don't mean that you have to now end the programming process, but at that stage, you can release your program. For example, normally in software, we say that there's no such thing as perfect software, because software can always be improved just like any other thing. So I always produce our software in versions, using version control systems that we shall look at in later sessions, where we can use those platforms to actually develop different versions of our software. So whenever we add a feature, we can call that maybe version 1 or version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5 point something. I'm sure maybe some of our members have seen that some of our applications that we use normally request for updates. So that is because someone has actually come up with an additional feature of that application, and they want you to install that update so that that feature can be added to the version that you have. Yes, so that's what we mean by finish, just to put it in context. So like I said, today it is going to be more of a practical session, and I want to accord at least 1 hour to the practical session, so that we can get to see some of the code that we shall be dealing with. Some teachers suggested that we should do the practical bit of things, because some of their learners are actually on computers right now, and they would like to also try out this code as I demonstrate. And I think that is a marvelous idea. And I believe that if they can be able to follow me, they can also be able to develop the application. So there's a bit of some noise in my background, sort of a public place. There's a bit of noise. Please bear with me. I hope you can at least hear what I'm actually saying. So I'm going to end my presentation and I'm going to actually share my VS Code right here. So I just want to go to where I stored our program. Let me see. Yes, so our program, I named our program, our first program. So I'm going to open it right here in my VS Code. So I'm opening the program that we used last time, so that we don't have to go back to backtrack. We don't have to go back again. So this is where we stopped. This is where we stopped. I remember I had explained most of these. I had written a small program that displays my name. As well as, just a moment. So I had described to you some of these tags, what these tags do. And I want us to build on this particular program and add some extra elements to this particular program. So we had the doc type HTML right here. Just to recap, we had the doc type HTML, and we say that this gives information to the browser about what document you want, what document the browser should expect. So when you write the doc type HTML tag or instruction or declaration, we actually don't consider it a tag, but we can, for the purposes of learning, we can consider it a tag. We actually call it a declaration. So the doc type declaration helps give information to the browser about what document to expect at the end of the day. So please mute. Please mute. Please mute, members. I don't know what's that now. Yes. So please, members, mute whenever you're having a conversation or you're logging in, you're signing into the session. Please make sure that you mute because you're interrupting the session. So I want us to add a couple of tags that I did get to share last time. So I will begin with what we call the title tag. We talked about the title tag. I can see it here on line 5, actually. We actually added that. And we say that whenever you add the title tag, I don't know who's this. Someone from... Sorry about that. Mr. Mukalele, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
I just wanted to, you see, people are joining in and others have their settings where their mic is unmuted, so they'll keep interrupting.
Yes.
So you could disable unmuting. When you click on security tab, there is somewhere you can click such that someone cannot unmute without permission.
Okay.
That one will solve that. You will open it later when it is possible.
Yes, because they actually, is it this tab?
Yeah, you go where there is security.
Sorry?
And turn it off.
I didn't get you well, Mr. Mukalele.
There is where there is security.
Yes. Is it on this tab?
Yes, on the administrator.
Oh, sorry. Unfortunately, I'm also in a noisy place. There's a lot of noise here, but
yeah, that was solving the problem so that we just move smooth.
Yes, I think I will mute him for now. We'll just mute him for now.
Connection with that.
Let me just try to.
Yeah, there's somewhere where there is allow participants to unmute that you.
Okay.
These people are not
Okay, let me try to see what let me just try to mute him out for now. I don't know what's wrong with him, but he's actually not following what we are trying to say. Because I can't see the setting, actually from here.
There's somewhere where, but anyway, it's fine. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mukalele. Thank you very much. So hopefully we can move on. We can move on with less interference with that. Sorry. Okay. So let's move on. Let's move on. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, our members sometimes don't follow instructions. And so they are sort of interrupting us. So I want to move on. Thank you, Mr. Mukalele, once again. So I want us to move on to, I want us to look at other tags, but I hope our members remember some of the tags that we actually shared last time. For example, if you had followed my cursor, we looked at the paragraph tag, and the paragraph tag is used to add a paragraph, like I mentioned last time. And this was a break statement on line 11. On line 11, we actually have the break statement, but I want to introduce in another tag, which were not necessarily a tag, but what we call comments. So comments are basically what we use to sort of add some comments to our code to help us figure out, to help us put some instructions in our code. In other words, trying to guide maybe another person who's reading our code. Let me just try to demonstrate what I mean by that. So for example, instead of you having, for example, a notebook to write in when you're coding in VS Code, you can always take advantage of the VS Code platform or interface to actually include the VS Code, include comments, sorry, in your VS Code. For example, in this case, if I wanted to type a comment here that says that this is my doc type element, for example, if I wanted, maybe if I was sharing this with my brother, my younger brother, and I wanted them to know what the code means, what each line of code means at the end of the day, I would say, I'll type that, and I'll type an exclamation mark here. And as well, make sure that I add 2 extra lines. Sorry, let me just put in the right syntax. So that is the right syntax for a comment. So we normally have the less than sign, then we have an exclamation mark here, then we have 2, I think hyphens, 2 hyphens or minuses. You might consider them as minuses, and then other minuses after the comment. So in this case, I'll write, this is my doc type element. This is my doc type declaration. So what happens is that this particular comment will actually not show up in our web browser. In other words, it won't execute as part of our program. It is just there for instructional purposes. In case maybe, like, for example, during this session, you may feel like maybe with time you might forget what we coded. You can always use comments to indicate, to sort of put some instructions. For example, when you come back after 3 weeks, you can be able to read that this is actually, for example, for my case, considering my program, that I would be able to know that actually on line 2, that is where I put my doc type declaration or doc type tag. So comments are very important. I'll try to add some other ones to make sure that at least you get to know how we actually type comments and become well versed with them. So here, for example, here I might say this is my head section. I can just press tab like this. For those that are following, for those that are coding, please try to make sure that we're on the same page. So here we just say, you can type anything really, anything of your preference. Here we say my head tag. Yes, so that is a comment for me. So here I can say my body tag. So I'll just copy and paste. So in most cases, if you've typed something, you can always copy it and paste it somewhere else. And remember, the shortcut for copying is always Ctrl+C. Yes, for those who pay attention in the ICT club, in the ICT classes, sorry, you know that we have shortcut keys for some of these things. So Ctrl+C is for copying, and remember that Ctrl+V is for pasting, and Ctrl+X is for cutting. So if you want to cut something, please make sure you press Ctrl+X. If you want to copy, you make sure you press Ctrl+C. And if you want to paste something, you have to press Ctrl+V. Yes, so that is it for our comment. That is it for our comment. So I want us to add some other tags. I want us to add some other tags on the screen. So I have this, sorry. I'm seeing some marks on my screen. I don't know why. So I have some marks on my screen. Let me stop sharing for a while. Sorry about that. So I hope you can see my screen quite clearly. I hope it is better now. So I'll try to go through the extra tags that we are adding in today in quite a fast manner, because I really want to also share with you some CSS at the end of the day. So we are going to add something else. We are going to add another tab, another tag. So there's what we call a meta tag. So what we mean by a meta tag, so it's basically what search engines use for viewing your site, in other words. So I talked about, in our first session, I talked about a term called search engine optimization. So when you search for when someone searches for your website, so when someone searches for your website online, maybe in Google or something, they actually need, the browser has to find out some keywords or some information that they can use to help that person get access to your website. For example, if you went to a website and maybe you're a user and you type in, I would like to shop, I would like to buy some shoes somewhere. So at the end of the day, you would realize that that browser actually needs to go ahead. The browser actually needs to go ahead and pick out those keywords that you put in the meta tag, and then it will be able to share that, to be able to execute that, to sort of help the web optimize your website, find your website, in other words, just to put it simply. So what we shall do here in this case, to add a meta tag. So this is a basic meta tag. This is the basic meta tag. This is how it looks like. So that is a very basic meta tag, which has no properties. So before I proceed, I think it would be nice for me it would be appropriate for me to explain to you what properties are. If I'm to use the context of human beings, us, we actually have certain properties, all of us. You might see a human being actually has a name, they have height, they might have skin tone. Yes, so those are some of the properties of a human being. If we are to use an example of a car actually has a color as well. A car has some weight. A car has some features. So those are properties of a car. In other words, a property is just a feature of something, to put it simply, because I really don't want to make this very technical, especially for our beginners, the ones that are interested in this. I want to make it really basic. Just think of a property as a feature. So some tags actually have features. For example, when you reach the point where I will show you how we can insert an image, you will see that an image has, for example, width and height. Yes. So that means when you have a tag that relates to, for example, an object, for example, the image tag, it will have certain features, it will have certain properties that we add to that particular tag. So in VS Code, a property is always in a different color than the actual tag. For example, here, if I add another property called cassette in our meta tag, property O, cassette will be considered the property what? It will be considered the property of, consider the property of, sorry, it will be considered the property of the meta tag. It will be considered the property of the meta tag. So, the property of this cassette property is that it helps us, it defines character encoding. So by character encoding, I mean, it enables our browser. It enables our browser enables our browser or our website anyway. It enables our website to be able to display, to be able to support different languages. In this case, not programming languages, but human languages. So you might want to build a website that can be translated, let me say, to Chinese. There are some websites that offer that option where you can actually click on, which language you want. Maybe you want your program in Chinese, you want it in Russian. So that is available to you. But for you to have access to that library of languages or to that capacity for your website to support such languages, you always want to add in there the cassette property, the meta cassette property. So in this case, we would make sure that our property has a value. I use the analogy of a human being. When I talk of a human being, I said that when I talked about a human being, I said a human being has properties. For example, a name or age. So the property age has a value. It has a value, and the value would be that number that applies to the respective person. So in case, for example, I can say maybe if you were Joan and you were 25 years old, that means in the context of programming, if Joan was a tag, then we would first write the Joan tag, then we would add the age property, then we would give it a value of Joan's age, whatever age she is, maybe 5 years old. So in this case, I'm just going to write this as an example. It's not a tag, but just to show you what I mean. So if Joan was a tag, it would be the syntax or the way, the notation that we would write to implement, to sort of add properties to the Joan tag. It would be Joan. Then we would add age, and the age in this case would be the Joan tag property in this case. Then we would give it a value of 15 or 5. I hope this makes sense. Obviously, these are not tags in HTML, but I'm just using it as an example to explain what is on line 11 under the meta cassette tag. So I hope that makes sense. So in this case, our meta cassette, we shall give it a value of UTF minus 8. So in this case, I really don't want our members to get intimidated by some of these things. So these things are predefined. So when you type your syntax in this manner, the computer will actually know that this person is telling me to actually, consider displaying the website in other languages, or it wants, or he or she wants me to reach a point where I can actually display the website in different languages. So that is basically it, just to put it simply. So additionally, we do have another meta tag that I want to share with you. Obviously, there are quite many, but I think the rest, some of our learners will actually have to go and recite some of them. But at least I want to share with you two of them, two meta tags that we actually we normally add to the head section. So sometimes we also add another meta tag for making sure that our website is responsive. So this particular line that I'm going to type, please take note of the syntax, take note of the real syntax, of the right syntax, sorry. So this meta tag actually helps us make our website responsive. By responsive, I mean our website should be able to display, should be able to be displayed in an appropriate way on different devices. In other words, if you had a website, if you designed this website, will it be able to be displayed appropriately on, for example, a smartphone? Will it display appropriately on a computer? Will it display appropriately on a smartwatch, for example? Yes. So that's why we always need these meta tags. And if you remember very well, in the last session, I told you that in our head section, that's why we include most of the logic related to our website. That in this case, all these meta cassette tags, or for example, the meta cassette tag won't be seen by the user, but it's just logic. It's just some of the things. It's just some of the these are just some of the tags that the website needs, that you need to include in your website so that the browser can interpret the information prior to you executing your program, or opening your program in your website in this case. So in this case, I will proceed and say I give it a name property. So let me first type it as a whole. Then we shall give the properties values. So we have the content property as well. Then we have the width property. Then we have, I think those are the three main properties. So for those that are following me, please make sure you're able to type something like this, because I want to give at least a brief explanation of the values that we are going to put here, so that tomorrow, maybe when you see this somewhere else, you can be able to understand what is going on. So for the name, we shall have the value viewport. And we said value. When I say value, I simply mean the value of the property. For example, here the name that we are giving to our the name, we're using the name property we are assigning the name property to the meta tag in this case. Then for content, for those who are following, we shall have actually content. Actually, we don't have the width property here. I had messed up the syntax a bit. Sorry about that. So I'll just put it back like this. So under content, we shall have this. I'll try to zoom in my screen so that everyone can be able to see. So we have width, and width will be equal to the device. And let me type the whole thing first. So this will be our meta tag. This will be our meta tag. Yes, as you can see, we have a lot of code inside there, but I hope what I'm going to explain will make sense. So whenever we include this meta tag in our website, it makes sure that at least our website can fit, should be able to fit on different devices. Just to summarize that. So you always want to make sure that you always have the meta tag and the properties name and content. Then under content, we always want to include the value of content using this syntax that I've given you. I don't want to really go into the technical side of what width means and so on, of what that code means. But I just want to tell you that, at least as beginners, always take note of this. Make sure that you have the name property with the viewport. Hopefully, when we reach that bit of responsive web design, because that is a whole idea as well, a whole section of programming, where we actually make sure that all our applications fit. We make sure that all our applications actually fit on that. We make sure that all our applications can be displayed well on multiple devices, on mobile phones, on smartwatches, and so on. Yes. So your website should be able to be displayed in an appropriate manner. So I will move out of the head tag, and then we shall move on to the body tag. So I hope those that are following me have been able to type this. I've been able to type that because I want to move away from that particular section. So every now and then, when I'm explaining, please make sure make sure that you use some comments. I've already shown you how we type a comment. Yes, I will try to add another one here for those ones that might have forgotten. So I'll say this is my paragraph, my first paragraph. My first paragraph, for example. My first paragraph. Yes, so you add your own customized comments just to make sure that when you come back and open your program, you can always remember these things. Yes, maybe you can grasp them now, but with time, you might forget. And that's why we always use these comments to comment out our code. So I want to introduce another tag, at least the basic ones. So we have what we call a heading tag. So a heading tag, heading tags used, just like the name sounds, it's used for headings. So we have different heading tags. I'll just type out one here. So this is heading 1. Let me say I wanted to add the heading. I wanted to add the heading to my website. I'm going to give it the title. I'll call it my web page. So my web page will be my heading, but I really want us to be able to see what happens on the page because I want this to be real time. Let me try to stop sharing a bit so that you can also, so that our learners can be able to see what is happening whenever I type that. So I hope you can see my entire screen now because I really want to share with you what we're actually coding because it can't just be about code. So let me try to run the program here. So this is what we have. This is what we have. I just typed out, the title. As you can see, that's how my title looks like. And this is how our program looks like. If I put them side to side, if I put my code here side to side, so this is what we have actually. This is what we have. Let me try to make sure that it's side by side so that you can see what is happening. So I can try to change this. I can try to change this to maybe my web platform. So you can use your own title. You can use your own title. I'm just showing you that this H1 actually helps us create this title. So I'll refresh here and you can see here, my title actually changes. My title changes. So just to elaborate more on this heading tag, we actually have 6 heading tags. That is H1 to H6. So using this demonstration, I think it will be easier for you to understand when I try to demonstrate this. Let me try to copy this and I will create 6 heading tags just to show you the difference between heading 1 up to heading 6. So this will be H2. As you can see, VS Code actually helps me to change these. This will be H3. This will be H4. This will be H5. And this will be H6. So this is what happens. This is what happens on the web browser. In the web browser, when I do that, when I refresh this. So for those who have installed Live Server, obviously your web page will refresh automatically. But I haven't executed Live Server. That's why I have to refresh my web page every time. So these are our headings. These are our headings. And the first one on top, right here, if you can see my screen, let me try to zoom in once again. The first one right here is H1. So you use the H1 tag in case you want your title to be of a certain size. For example, if you want a bigger size, you can use H1. If you want something that's relatively big, you can use H2. Then if you want a smaller one, if you want a smaller size, you can keep on changing the heading tags from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, then to 6. So 6 is actually what? The smallest. So this the H6 is actually the smallest heading. It will actually give you the smallest heading. So that is it for headings. At least now I know our members have been able to reach a point where they can actually include a heading. So for those following me, please make sure that at least you have a heading in your website. Make sure you have an H1 tag or an H2 tag. You don't have to type all my tags here. I'll also actually maintain the H1 tag as my heading tag. So you can choose H5, you can choose H6, you can choose whatever heading you want. So additionally, I just want to show you something else in addition to what we've already covered. So under the heading tag, I had forgotten something. Under the heading tag, this is where we can actually add what we call a website icon. If I'm to use an example here, you can see this is the Zoom tabs up here where my cursor is. You can see that on the right here, on the left, sorry, we have an icon, and that icon is basically it actually is a logo for the particular, for Zoom in this case. But in case you want to add the logo to your website, that is supposed to be displayed in this tab, similar to the one that we have here, the Z for Zoom, you will use the following syntax. You use this syntax. Please try to follow me. So we shall type link. We shall use what we call a link tag that is used to link pages, in other words. So the link tag is mainly for linking pages. Yes, that is to put it simply. So we shall type link, then we shall type REL, or you can consider that as relationship for understanding purposes. You can say link relationship. Yes, because we want to make sure that this link is related to something. So the relationship, as you can see, has also changed its color. Like I told you, some tags have properties. So in this case, our link tag has a property called REL, or relationship. Think of it as relationship. So I'll give it a relationship property. Then obviously, remember, most of our properties have values. Whenever you have a property, you probably have a value as well. So in this case, our relationship has to be an icon, because we want to add an icon on the web page. We want to add this icon on top of the web page. So additionally, we also want, we will also need to have what we call the type property. So for the type property, that's where we have a value of image / X icon. So here in simple terms, we are telling the computer, please, I really want to include this icon as I want to include an icon on my web page so that it's not just blank. I want to add an image that will act as an icon. So that is basically what we are doing here. That is with the relationship property as well as the type property. So another property obviously would be for us to tell our computer that we actually need, we need our computer to know where we shall be getting that image. Where is that image stored that is going to be included in our website? So you have to give it a reference. You have to give it a reference so that the computer can pick that image wherever it is stored on your computer, and then it will display it as part of the icon. So here, I will use what we call the href property. So href, for purposes of understanding, consider it as has reference. So I always use that in my instructions to make it pretty simple. So just think of it as has a reference. So if I'm to put this entire statement in English, I will begin on line 13. I would say, starting from here, let me try to zoom in. So starting from here, what you're saying, what you're telling the computer here on this line of code, you're saying, please link, please, I want you to link an image that I will consider that is an icon. I want you to link an icon image I want you to link this icon. I want you to link this particular icon to my website. Then here, type, obviously, you have to specify what kind of icon is it. And in this case, we are saying it is an image. And it is an image of type X icon. So by default, X icon, the computer already knows that this is actually an icon that is supposed to be displayed together with the displayed in your tab. Like, for example, the other Zoom icon I showed you. Then you're saying the icon has a reference, has this particular reference. In other words, my icon is stored in this part of the computer. So maybe you want to indicate the name of that particular icon. So I'm just going to get an image. I'm just going to get one of the images on my desktop here. Let me just look out for one image here, maybe in the Kawa website. So I have a couple of images here. I'll just pick out one that I wanted to share with you today. So let me just try to put this. So let me put this image here on my desktop. So it's always good to put all your files in one folder. It's always good to put them in one folder. But in this case, mine are outside. I just want to show you that you can actually reference that image and turn it into an icon. So in this case, my image is called CSS something, but let me try to shorten the name for purposes of including the icon. So please take note of this process because you shall need it when you are inserting other images as well. So when you hover, for example, just to illustrate to you, when I right click on this image, then I go to properties, you'll see that our computer shows us some of the properties of our image. It shows us the size, it shows us the date it was created. It also shows us the date when it was last modified and so on. But what is important here is what I want to share with you is particularly what we call a file extension, the type of file. Because when you're including your file if you're including your file in a website, you always want to include the file extension. So here, this is the file extension. Whenever you see a dot and then some letters after that dot, that is the file extension of your particular file. So in this case, since this is a .png file, please take note of where I got this .png. Because that is important. That's how you include images as well. In the body, sorry. So I will come here. I have to take note of the name as well. So the name is CSS. The name of our image is CSS. So I'll go to my VS Code and I will say CSS dot, because that is the name of my image. So I said CSS dot PNG. CSS dot PNG. So as you can see, my VS Code immediately shows me, helps me and shows me that actually this image exists on the desktop where my file is. So when I try to run this, when I try to refresh my browser here, hopefully we can be able to see. So I think you can see, though it's a bit small, but if you follow my cursor, you can see that we have an icon here. We have an icon. We've added a nice icon similar to this one from Zoom. Similar to this one that the people from Zoom actually added to their meeting website, sorry, to their meeting website anyway. Yes. So I hope now, at least by now, we know that we know the syntax for adding we know the syntax for adding a web page. For adding an icon. Sorry about that. So additionally, I just want to show you in the next, these things are quite a lot, but in the next 10 minutes, maybe, next 10 minutes, I will have to end the HTML for a start. So I want to show the members a few tags that we use for formatting, sorry. So I'm going to try to replicate my text here in this paragraph, just for purposes of making sure that we have a long paragraph. Let me just try to get a paragraph for somewhere else, just to show you how we can format text in, how you can format text in HTML. So I'm going to get my paragraph from here. I already copied it from somewhere. I just want to use it for illustration purposes so that you can see how you can actually format your text. By formatting text, I mean how you can bold it, how you can italicize, how you can underline, how can you do those basic instructions? How can you execute those basic instructions? How can you include them in your website as well? So I've included this. Let me try to narrow it a bit. So I hope you can see my paragraph. It's quite long, Let me try to delete some things. So this is my paragraph. I'll try to keep it short. So I will press enter here to make sure that at least you can see the entire page. So this is my paragraph. My paragraph also has a break statement here. So currently, this is how my page looks like. This is how my page looks like if I refresh. So this is the paragraph that I've just included. This is the paragraph I've just included. So I want to show you how we can actually bold and underline as well as italicize some of these. So if I wanted to bold, let me say, for example, the word papers in this paragraph, if I wanted to make it bold on my web page, I would have to use what we call the bold tag or the B tag. So I will just simply go to this word, near this word papers, and I will put the word papers in what we call the bold tag. So I'll just cut it from here and paste it right here. So that is where the bold tag, that's where you will put the word papers to make sure that it is bold. So when you look at our website here, the word papers, as you can see on the screen, is actually bolded right here where my cursor is. So that's how we bold. You simply use the letter B to create a tag, the bold tag. So you can also use, as an option, you can always use the strong tag, which I recommend. I think strong is much better. So strong also does the same thing. When I refresh here, you can see that we still have the word papers is already bolded. So you can either use the strong tag or the B tag to bold. Then to italicize. When I say italicize, I simply mean how do we bend our text a bit to highlight it or to make it stand out. So to italicize, we actually use the I tag. We use the I tag to do that. So I'll try to italicize the word. Let me see. We can choose a word from here. So I'm going to italicize this word here, paragraphs. I'll italicize the word paragraphs. So I'll go back to my VS Code and between, so I'll make sure that the word paragraphs is in between I tags. Right? So the word is italicized, so the tag becomes I in this case. So it will be I, and then I will cut this word paragraphs and put it into the I tags. So when you go back to our web page, you'll see that our word paragraphs is actually italicized. It's actually italicized. So so that is for italicizing. So italicizing also has an option. In case you don't use the I tag, you can always use HTML5 offers you the option of using the emphasize tag. Like I told you, highlighting and emphasizing are almost the same thing. They're synonymous. So in case you want to emphasize your page or your words, you can use the EM tag, which stands for, EM simply stands for emphasize. It's a short form of emphasize. So in this case, you have the paragraphs, the paragraph word, sorry, emphasized. Like this, as you can see, it remains the same when I refresh. So what if we wanted to underline our word? For example, we want to underline one word in our paragraph. What do we do? How do we go about that? So I think by now, you guys have, at least our members have gotten the idea now. When a word begins, especially in formatting, when you're formatting, not every time, not for every case, but in formatting, when you want to bold, always think about the first letter in that word. That means for bolding, you might use the B tag to do that. In case you've forgotten the strong tag, you can use the B word. To emphasize, you can use EM. To italicize, you can begin with the first letter, which is I. So you can use the I tag to italicize. So for underlining, it doesn't change. We actually use the U tag. Since our word actually begins with underline, with the U, sorry, we can use the U tag to underline. So let me look at this web page. So in case I wanted to underline this paragraph here at the bottom, if I wanted to underline this sentence, this is my name. I want to underline the whole thing. Or for example, if I want to underline only name, I just want this name to be underlined, the word name. So I would go to name, and then I would actually include, I would make sure that the name is in between, the word name is in between U tags. It's in between U tags. So at least with that, I can say that at least we know how to underline, we know how to emphasize. And when I go to our page here, you see that the word name is actually underlined. Yes, so I'll just share with you two more, and then we shall move on to the CSS. So we shall be having, I think we shall have 2 sessions of CSS. Don't worry about it. We shall have 2 sessions of CSS. This will be an introductory session. Then in the coming session, we shall delve into the inner, the intricate details of CSS. You will see how we actually build, how we actually style some of these elements. Yes, though today I really needed to top up on some of the tags that we used last time, so that at least for this week, our members can be able to actually at least practice a little bit more around HTML. So I will also recommend some tutorials from my brother, Mr. Isaac Matsanga. So Mr. Matsanga has some YouTube tutorials under the Kawa platform on YouTube. For those who have access to internet, please take time to actually visit the Kawa channel on YouTube, so that you can be able to see some of these things, because he has actually created some very good tutorials that show all of these things, the formatting, inserting images, and so on, that I might not be able to cover in a 1-hour session, for example. Yes, please, those who have internet, some of our schools, the government schools, especially those that are supported by UCC, you already have the internet. So please take time to take advantage of that internet and visit our Kawa platform on YouTube, our Kawa channel, and check out some of these tutorials and learn some of these things. So at least now I can say we know how to underline. So I also want to show you what we call the mark tag. So the mark tag can also be used to highlight certain words. So here, for example, if I wanted to highlight the word building, this word here, I want to highlight it in such a way that it is displayed with a different background color. I will go to VS Code. I'll go to VS Code, and then I will actually type the mark tag here. In this case, I will type the whole word mark like this. Then I will make sure that our word building is in between. Sorry about that. Our word building is in between the word, in between the tag, the mark tag, sorry. So right now I can check out what we have right here, and you will see that our building, our word building is actually highlighted. It has an effect that looks like someone has actually used the marker to highlight out that particular word. So I hope I hope you've gotten that point, especially those ones that are following me, that are coding with me, something that I'm actually encouraging. I think that is a way to make this particular program a little bit more hands-on, because we really want our learners, and our students to be able to do the things practically, so that in this session, you don't just sit and just watch as I code. It is always good for the computer lab attendants as well as the teachers to be able to support the learners so that they can also code along with me. Yes, even those that already know, practice doesn't hurt anyone, and you become better with practice. So I want to encourage that habit so that our sessions are as engaging as possible. So please allow me to actually bring in this element of what we call the del element. So the del element is simply what helps us also format our text, but in this case, del, you can think of it as delete. Think of it as delete, where in case you want to cross out a word in your paragraph, some of you, I think some people who have visited some online stores, you always see that they might give you a certain price and cross it out and show you the new price. So I'll try to replicate that in my program here. I'll try to type a paragraph here, for example, quickly. Let me say we're selling our product. I'll type the price here in any paragraph. I will say old price. I will say old price. Let me say we're selling a product at 20,000 shillings. Maybe some quencher for our students. So 20,000 shillings would be our old price. Our old price in this case. But we also have a new price. We also have a new price. Our new price is maybe we are giving our customers a discount because we want our customers to buy more quencher, more of our quencher. We've given them a discount of 5,000, sorry. So our quencher is now at 15,000 shillings. So this is how our paragraph looks like on our web page. So this is our paragraph right here. So I want to actually put a line across this 20,000, the old price. Yes, I want my customer to be able to see it, but at the same time, also be able to see my new price. So to show them, to actually highlight this 20,000 and show them that this is actually old and we are not following this price, I can use the del element to sort of cross a line across that. I think my demonstration will make more sense if I actually do it practically. So I will carry this 20,000 shillings the way it is. Let me just carry the 20,000. So on your side, you can carry the whole thing, but in this case, I will just carry 20,000. Then I will leave the shillings on the side. So it is only the 20,000 that will be crossed out. So I think we can see that effect, the cross out effect. So this is normally used on e-platforms in case you're selling something or you're creating a web page that where you can sell a product, maybe clothes or something. So we always use that del element, DEL, delete element, to actually cross the text out like this, just to show our customers that this is actually old. Yes, so you might use it for other purposes, but my role here is just to give you the technical, the syntax, in other words. Then you have to get creative with it. And like we said, the purpose of this is not for us to tell you what to do, but to empower you and show you how you can actually use the resources or the language to create your own things at the end of the day. So additionally, someone last time asked me, how do we actually add an image to our website? And I think I promised that I would actually cover that. So I will just try to type here. I will just try to add an image here. And this image is going to be for learning purposes as well. I want to use it in my illustration of what we call the CSS box model, because it is one of the core concepts of anyone who wants to learn CSS. So I will talk about CSS for 10 minutes as well. Then I will bring in, I will invite questions for the last 10 minutes. So for CSS, we shall only be doing the basics for a start for the 10 minutes. Then when I come back next weekend, I will show you, we shall go into the CSS like I mentioned. So in this case, we shall have the image tag. This is how we type the image tag. So to start with, you have to remember the notion that I explained in our last session, that we have what we call normal tags and self-closing tags. So I use those terms explicitly to make sure that I keep it simple. That when you find a tag like this one here, the image tag on line 33, so this tag, actually, you don't need to close it like this. For example, if you did this for the image tag, for example, closing it like this. Sorry. So if I typed IMG here, like this would be what we call a syntax error. And by syntax error, it means you've typed the tag, but you've not typed it in a right way. You've not taken note of the fact that the image tag is actually a self-closing tag. It does not need to be closed. For example, here on line 35, we have the paragraph tag, the opening tag for the paragraph, and the closing tag for the paragraph. Because the paragraph tag is actually a normal tag. You can call it a normal tag. Yes. But this one, the image tag is self-closing. So you don't need actually to close it. In HTML5, you can just simply type it the way it is here. So let me say I wanted to add that same image that we saw. I would type the property source. So in this case, source will be represented by the short form SRC. So whenever you say SRC, we are looking for the source of our image. It is similar to href, or has a reference that we saw here in our link tag, right here. So when you're linking, you use href, as you will see in our other link tags. So, but in this case, for the image, for the person who asked, you actually need the source tag, and then you also need other properties in case you want to. For a start, let me first use the source tag to insert the image first before I can add other properties. So for source, I will go and see where my image is. So in this case, I'm just showing you how we reference images that are in the same location with your program file. This is my program file, and this is the CSS image. Yes. So in this case, they're in the same location. Yes. But next time, hopefully, I'll be able to show you how we actually reference some of these images that are in different locations. Maybe it is located on your other drive on your computer, or it is located somewhere else. You can actually reference it too as well. I'll be showing you that in the next session because we are running out of time. So I'll come here under source and I type css.png. Remember, we already saw that our CSS file actually has a .png extension, and I showed you how we actually get these extensions. We don't just type them like straight away. We have to check the properties of the CSS image. So even with just that simple code, with the image tag and the source property, you can actually insert an image. You can insert an image, and if I refresh here, you'll see that on my screen, I have the CSS box model image that I'm going to use. I've inserted it in my website, but I'm going to use it as well to explain to you a little bit of CSS, some of the properties of CSS in the next 6 minutes. So for the CSS box model, you have to understand that CSS helps us to style our web pages. So just to give a brief overview of it, I will go into depth next time when we begin CSS itself. But this is just showing you what happens when you create an HTML element. Actually, in the background, when you create an HTML element, that HTML element is put in something similar to a box. And that box has different properties. So here I'm considering an example of an image that I just inserted here on the web page. This same image anyway. So when I insert this image on this web page, it is inserted into something similar to a box. Something similar to a box. So this particular line of code creates a certain box that you can actually style using the CSS box model as a reference. Yes, though I understand that the time might not be sufficient for me to explain all these, the top padding, the border, the margin, and so on. I just want you to go with the idea that when you create an HTML element, it is created in a location. You think of it as a location similar to a box that you have to style using CSS. Yes, so, but I really didn't want to end this without some of our learners at least getting to learn some of how they can add some little CSS to their program. Sorry. So please allow me to show you how you can actually use what we call inline CSS. So inline CSS is CSS that we actually write in HTML. We write it in the same web page. So we simply put it in the line of the element and style that element. So as for a start, for you just to be able to change some color on your web page, I can just try to show you, for example, for our body. Let me try to edit the body. Let me see where is the body tag. So our body tag had gone now. Let me try to put it back. So I would like to use inline CSS. So please don't worry. We shall look at what inline CSS means, as well as what the other versions of CSS, what the other types of CSS mean in the next version. But I want to show our members how you can actually change the background of your body using the CSS style property. So in this case, I will type the word style. Then, so this is the syntax of the style property. Then I'll type the property. In this case, it will be background color. So as you can see on my screen, can you hear me? Sorry about that. I had a problem with my mic. So I was saying, in case you want to change the background color of your body, you can simply come here and type back. When you type the word back, VS Code realizes that VS Code sort of realizes that you actually want to type a CSS property. So it gives you all the properties in CSS3 that begin with the word back. Yeah? I think you can see them on my screen here. So you will have to come. In this case, I want background color. So I will just select the word background color. So let me say I wanted my background color in yellow. I'll just come and type here the word yellow. Yes. So I'll type it, I'll type the word yellow. So when I go to our web page here, so for those that are following me, you can please try to type the syntax. Yes, when I go to my web page here and I refresh, you will see that my background actually turns into yellow because I've used the property called background color, sorry, to turn it into yellow. So at least that is some basic CSS that our learners can begin with to style some of these elements that you can use the style property. So this is basically inline CSS, and it is basically CSS that we type in the same line as the HTML. That's why it's called inline, because we type it within the HTML line of that particular element. Yes. So lastly, before we get into the questions and answers, I also want to show you how you can use the same syntax to style, for example, a word. Let me say if I wanted this title here, what is the paragraph? I want my title, let me just use this title, the title, my web platform. So I want my heading here to be in color red, maybe because I prefer red, maybe red is my favorite color, and I'm a learner, say an ICT club member, but I prefer red as my color. I would come here and I would copy, in this case, because I've already typed the style property, I would copy this and place it right here. So in this case, I don't want to use the background color property. In this case, I will just use the word color as the property. So this is a CS property that changes text into another color. So I will just choose the color red. So hopefully the ones that are following me, the learners that are following me have been able to type this as well, that you can change the text of an element. You can style that element to a different color using the color property. At least for today, if you're able to learn this, that you can add color to your web page, you can change the background of any element. You can change the background color. For example, for the body to yellow, you can also change the background color. You can change the actual color of some text. For example, my title here, my web platform, to color red. So when I refresh here, you will see that my text here actually becomes red on my screen. I'll try to zoom out, sorry. So my title here becomes red. So I'm using CSS to actually do this, though this is inline CSS. Next time when we meet on Saturday, I'll show you what we mean by how we can actually use external CSS to style our websites, as well as how we can use embedded CSS. You will get to know about the difference next week when we when we dive into the CSS a little bit more. So with that, please let me allow the last minutes at least to be for purposes of you sharing with me what you think about the presentation, what you were able to learn, and maybe anything else that you want to share with me, because that is very vital for us. That is very important. And we really want to get at least a word from you, from our team, from our members at the end of every session. So thank you very much for listening to me. Let me invite anybody who wants to share something to be able to speak up and share as well on the platform. Thank you very much. So anyone that wants to say, to ask a question, maybe to make a suggestion as well, you're very welcome. You can just put up your hand and then we can be able to let you in. Do you have any questions today? Anyone from Jinja College that wants to say something? If not, you can please share your questions in the chat in case you have any. Otaget, Mr. Otaget, can you say something? You want to say something? Okay, you can speak up, please. Mr. Otaget, I can't hear you. Mr. Nato, do you want to say something? Mr. Nato, do you want to say something before we close? Oh, sorry. Hey, sorry. Sorry, I muted everyone out.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Nato, yes.
Yes, thank you very much for this session.
Yes.
Yeah, plus the members also who reported this, they also to join our sessions of HTML and so on, website designing.
Okay.
It has been so interesting that there is something unique you learn, even if you have learned some other areas, but you find there is something new which you get on addition to what you know. So it is so interesting. Just thank you for always taking the time to help our learners also to understand even more and more bits until we shall reach the time of advanced one. But at least I have no comment on what you have given. It is exactly, it is so good and nice. So thank you very much. With everything you are doing, may God bless you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nato from Masindi. Though I think last week you told us we'd see the members also participating. So we want to encourage you to please also invite the members to also be part. But at least it's very encouraging that some of our teachers also take the time to be on Bukedi College, as well as Padibe girls. I think they've been consistent in attendance, and that is really encouraging. That gives us some positive feedback that we're actually making an impact, and our members are also interested in what we are doing, as well as Jinja College. We really appreciate Mr. Mukalele for encouraging the learners to at least take out 1 hour of their weekend and be able to learn something new. Yes, like I said, at Kawa, we are always looking at how we can make this better. Though sometimes the session can find me in places that are a bit noisy. I hope you can bear with me. Sometimes I will just have to facilitate from that place instead of us missing out that particular weekend. Yes, so I apologize for that. But based on the attendance, I'm really pleased because I can see we have a lot of members that have joined us today. So if there's no question, I can see Mr. Wamanga. Mr. Wamanga, do you want to say something? Mr. Wamanga? Are you on? Yes, so maybe Mr. Wamanga is off. With that, please allow me to end this particular session for this particular, sorry, I think Mr. Otaget wants to say something.
Yes, Mr. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the session.
Yes.
I'm actually feeling encouraged and enlightened about this program.
Yes.
And I just have a simple question about the issue of themes. I just wanted to know, like, if someone wanted to change like the theme, maybe from black to white, something like that. Is it also in CSS or it is in some other language?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Target, for asking that question. So to change, when you come to themes, you understand that when you choose a theme, you're actually choosing some default colors. You want your website to be in certain colors. Let me say you want to choose a black theme. Yes, for example, if I'm using my VS Code here, it is in a black theme, the VS Code we're using. I'm using a black theme because the background is black. So anything to do with colors and layouts, that has to do with CSS. And I think next week I will consider your question and I will try to elaborate on how you can actually change the entire theme of your website. How can you do that in CSS? Though it is a bit advanced, but I appreciate the question and at least it gives me direction into what I can use as a basis for my next presentation. So I really appreciate that. And just to answer your question, we actually use CSS for that. Thank you very much. So any other question before we close at 4:30? The last question maybe, or the last comment? Okay, since there are no questions, please allow me to say bye to you. I appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to attend this session, and please do the same next weekend because we shall be sharing some important stuff. So with that, please have a wonderful evening. Bye.